Hello everybody, Mike here. If there's one player that comes to mind when I hear the phrase feel over flash, it is David Gilmour. Dave Gilmour is one of my favourite guitarists, one of my biggest influences, definitely in my top 5, and I just want to talk about one specific aspect of David Gilmour's playing that I think if you was to single out, it would be probably one of the most defining parts of his sound, and that is his use of bends. And I just want to break down 5 specific techniques that he utilises with bends. He doesn't just bend notes in the typical fashion, he often combines it with other techniques. So the first one we're going to talk about and look at is probably the most Gilmour-esque one, and that is slow bends. So yeah, the slow bend is a very typical Gilmour technique. When you do a standard bend, it's usually a bit faster than that. So we usually do sort of like a typical full step bend, for instance. It's usually like this. But what Gilmour does quite often is he'll deliberately make it a very slow rise to the target note. And what that does is it really creates a lot of tension and emphasises the emotional aspect. So he'll hit the note and then really slowly rise to the target note. Next up, we're going to talk about wide interval bends. So I think you can probably hear quite quickly with that one that is a very typical Gilmour technique. These wide interval bends where you're bending much more than just a full step up. Quite tricky if you're new to them. Probably Gilmour's most famous example of doing these really wide interval bends is on the Another Brick in the Wall solo. Next up is bend, release, bend. So that's a very effective and simple way to spice up your bends right there. The premise is pretty simple and self-explanatory. What you're doing is you're bending up to the note, releasing, and then bending straight back up to it again. So it's like... Next up is the rake into a bend technique. So that's a very effective technique, doing rakes into bends. That's what that was. What you're doing really is you are getting your target note ready, but rather than just sound it like normal, mute the strings above it like that, and then you glide across them lightly and go into the note that you're aiming for. It gives a bit more sustain to the note that you're aiming for, but it's also just a very nice way to add a lot more character to the note itself. And saving the best for last, this one is a very cool ethereal style technique, and this is where you use volume swells whilst bending. This is one of my favourite techniques. I use it all the time. It's a bit tricky if you're new to it, but it's just well worth persevering with. And what I'm doing there is I'm rolling the volume back to 0, and as I sound the note and start bending it up, I'll roll the volume back up. So it adds a dreamlike quality to it. It's rolling off the initial attack where you're actually hitting the note, and hence the term swell. Gilmour uses this quite often, and a great one to learn. So the track that I used to demonstrate all these techniques is available on the channel. It just came out this week. It is a sort of an attempt at making a Pink Floyd style track, so it seemed like an appropriate one to use to demonstrate these techniques. This track is one of many backing tracks on my channel. That's what I do here, aside from these on-camera tutorials now and again. If you'd like to see more of these, consider subscribing, and if you want exclusive content, please check out my Patreon. Thank you.